Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. Duane the Great Writer and Seer.
In this real side experience, I would find myself in a monumentally vast supermarket complex, and the prevalent body forms operating within would overwhelmingly be human. Impressions revealed that just as an individual's physical level house, recreated on the real side, can represent the consciousness, comprising of every idea that has been created via the body vehicle mechanics, or ideas as created by others and agreed with, in both the cases the ideas are installed and effect then their reflected, simulated nature as made able to be experienced via the body forms, a consciousness then that has been progressively built upon since we first set foot into the simulator, so larger buildings can represent collective consciousnesses. A collective consciousness would be individuals bound together by ideas that they share, for if ideas are shared, so what is effected is the same experience, and where groups of individuals hold to the same ideas, so experience in relation to these ideas converge, and they will feature in each other's experience in accordance with the idea that holds them collectively. Perhaps not necessarily a continuous shared experience, if, say, it is but a single idea collectively embraced among all others that are rather divergent from each other. Those that hold to the ideas of religion will undoubtedly share experiences in relation to their religious attachment, converging on Sundays for church and so forth, but generally their experiences in relation to each other will only consistently converge in direct proportion to the idea agreements the individual's consciousnesses comprise of that are the same. Collective consciousnesses are as sizable as generally the idea that formulates it is propagated and the extent of the appeal the idea has. But as it is a shared ideas that makes a collective, so entire species would fit this category. For to be human, so an individual must upload to their consciousness the ideas that effect as the human experience, a little like uploading a game to our computers, a mini game, that of a species experience within the overall simulator arena, and now they can be a participatory addition to the species, sharing the ideas with all others who also are playing the simulated game that is human. That just as an individual has built up the consciousness since first entering the simulator, and is the sum of the ideas it comprises of, this applies to entire collective species, constructed and built up over time consciousnesses also. That according to the ideas as agreed with and installed, so the circumstances and situations that are the overall species rolling out experience are physical level manifested. As I said, this large supermarket represented humanity's collective consciousness, all the ideas it then contains, and indeed, where a supermarket is utilized for the representation, this further is demonstrating the species' incessant chasing and desiring of ideas through the various shops the supermarket complexes consist of, with their seemingly endless array of items available. And as humanity are completely controlled as a species by the dark force reptilians, that which is made available as ideas, represented through the supermarket consciousness buildings, will be those which serve as no other purpose than for the maintenance and indeed escalation of the control the dark forces have over humanity. Every presented idea will not only represent restriction, as all ideas absent of all is referencing will be, as every idea is coupled with the cause and effect principle and a simulator miring, but that which is presented as having surface appeal, that which the controllers spew into the human arena, will be laced with unseen ideas in affiliation. That as the surface ideas are embraced and agreed with, so the human experience as being of subjugation is maintained, and indeed the agendas for continuous expressions of a greater severity of control can continue to unfold. For indeed, as I wandered through the vast human consciousness representing supermarket of dark force restricting ideas, so the scene would become progressively dark, a darkness that none of the human shoppers could perceive, a darkness that in this context represented humanity's consciousness becoming ever more so unconscious and restricted. But for the one-dimensional human, unaware of the reality of what they were progressively becoming, as they could see but only the surface appealing idea and created phenomena, so it was a business as usual. Humanity overwhelmingly oblivious of the distortion being agreed with, and effecting not only worse conditions for the human species, but on a larger scale, the deterioration of the entire simulator. For the human consciousness is a part of the biggest collective consciousness, that being the overall consciousness that holds to the ideas that effect the simulator, the multi-dimensional arena all operate within, and as a consciousness of a species become ever more so restricted, so this contributes to the overall consciousness distortion that affects the simulator reflecting this restriction and unconsciousness, and progressively spirals into deteriorating demise, and ultimately, if things continue along these lines, eventual implosion. Interestingly, as the supermarket was becoming dark to the point where it was becoming increasingly difficult to discern anything taking place within its confines, two children would approach me, a boy and a girl of the approximate age of 8 or so. That although human in appearance, they seemed somewhat removed from the human race, a part of it, yes, but not entirely of it at the same time. In an experience I shared recently, as I was operating in a large building which again represented the human collective consciousness, two young children of the age of 8 to 10 had featured also, had entered the building and been as though the delivery mechanism for the insertion of an idea into human consciousness that translated simulation-wise as a contagion. The two children had been riddled with a skin-disfiguring fungal affliction that was the form by which the contagion would take, and in that experience I would purge humanity's consciousness of this idea, transfer it to my own, and work it off, release it, that it could no longer be as another potential overall human experience, as absent of the idea and no effect can follow, as though a movie removed from the shelf and thrown in the trash. It was as though the children were perhaps symbolic of the idea being human consciousness installed, or maybe in some way these two specific children were some way involved, for as appearances go on the real side, not everything is as it outwardly seems. And here, in this experience, although two different children were of the same age category and had the same sense about them, that of being able to impact humanity's affairs, but not actually as part of the human species. And indeed, as the scene became black as a coal mine, as the unconsciousness of humanity became more so, the two children would be again afflicted with a skin disfiguration, not fungal based as it was in the previous experience in regards to the potential humanity contagion depopulation event, but more of a rash coupled with as though a very severe case of acne. The two children now desired that I accompany them, and as they stood either side of me, each holding a hand, as we walked through the steadily darkening supermarket, eventually the scene descending into a blackness so complete that nothing was perceptible. And then it was as though someone had thrown a light switch. The scene illuminated once more, but where I had been previously standing in a supermarket was now a vast computer gaming complex, and the two curious, unearthly children were absent from my presence. Impressions revealed that just as the supermarket represented human overall consciousness, this gaming complex represented a significant portion of what was the more relatively recent idea distortions as incorporated into and now part of the human consciousness, that of the black magic technologies, specifically those associated with computer game entertainments. For indeed, the complex was awash with humans, all indulging in the various computer games made available, the vast majority of which were very advanced in their design, as though not only a cutting-edge gaming technology, but more so that which is yet to feature in humanity's physical level experience. As I said earlier, everything the Dark Force controllers provide for their enslaved species is for the singular purpose of the maintenance of their control and, where necessary, the escalation of it. Agreeing with what seems on the surface as a beneficial created entertainments, but in reality agreement extended to idea distortion, and which are laced with additional ideas, including the intentionality of perpetual suppression of humanity. Intent an idea just as any other that we can agree with and be the reflected effect of, and that an idea created cannot be so absent of the creator. The consciousness and that which is produced from it are inseparable, that as we agree with the idea we take on the consciousness also, and should it be a consciousness of domination, inclination, this then becomes our experience in relation to the individual whose consciousness created idea we had agreed with that seemed so very appealing. A shared experience where we are subjected to a domination at the behest of the abrasively inclined creator of the surface appealing idea. For as controlling as an individual may desire to be, we have to agree that they can be so in relation to us. As absent of the idea, no experience of a controlling nature can be exacted and be as a shared simulation between the would-be controller and ourselves. The gaming distortion, black magic technology, as I said, also locks all those agreeable into all manner of associated cyber dimensions and body forms of a distorted nature that operate in the dark recesses of multi-dimensional creation. For indeed, unseen by all humans, as they indulged in the advanced computer games as a dark force reptilian provided, would be all manner of monstrous body forms roaming throughout the gaming complex. Impressions revealed a number of them were along the hybrid lines, as the reptilians delight in merging genetics of various species, that what is created serves numerous purposes, and some of the body types can only be described as abominations. For there would be a number of half-animal, half-human hybrids, and although there are many expressions of bipedal animal forms, as I and others have shared as to the presence of operating in the simulator, these, as I said, were as a result of genetic splicing. There would be a number of what appeared to be large gorillas, but a closer approximation would be the Bigfoot or Yeti, the cryptozoological ape men that are occasionally sighted across the globe. For these ape creatures here were 8 feet tall or so, and I have seen these type of body forms previously on RealExperiences. They generally seem to be enslaved by the reptilians as though as pets or exhibits, though they have a sentience that suggests body forms where the secondary personal self has been established, yet their developed intelligences and cognitive abilities are always rather rudimentary. For indeed, within this game complex, these large ape creatures would be in chains and led around on leashes by what appeared to be humans, though the human keeper and the tall ape beings would be unseen by all human gamers, just as all the other creatures, hybrids, and created monstrosities were. Impressions suggested the gaming industry, the distortion that it was in some way connected with the extensive hybrid program that the reptilians are involved with, as though through the specific agreements as gleaned via the computer games humanity indulges in, through the unseen ideas attached to the surface gaming front, so this facilitated in some way the reptilians' continued ability to exercise and execute their extensive hybrid programs. As everything is based on agreement, the plight of the created hybrids would be born of agreement also. and as I said, in some way human agreements as trawled via the gaming technologies was fueling this hybrid program. I would take a closer cursory look at these far more sophisticated and very likely future gaming technologies to be filtering into the human experience at some stage, and practically all of them were of a very destructive nature. The general theme of all computer gamers is that of destruction, conquest, competition, as these will then be distortion of ideas subliminally implanted in humanity's consciousness, that humanity become progressively more distorted as a species, as is the reptilians' desires, as they rather delight in making their enslaved species as evil and abhorrent as their own reptilian consciousnesses are. And although the games as currently available in human experience are along these destructive, battling and competitive lines, the games as provided in this complex were not only far more advanced graphic-wise, more immersive, captivating, emotion eliciting, and ensuring more so their distorted natures are subconsciously implanted, but the nature of the violence was excessive, almost beyond comprehension, and yet the humans indulging in the games seemed unhinged by it, as though over the generations, especially with the inception of the technology entertainments, humanity have become progressively desensitized through the escalating levels of visual distortion they have been subjected to. For indeed, there was one particular computer game where participants would all be hooked up to a central mechanical column through electrodes placed on their heads, the approximate areas of their temporal lobes, and holding what appeared to be keypads. They were contesting with each other in some shape or form, and with each round so would there be an established loser, and he would be consumed by a giant snake. This wouldn't be simply inconsequential elements of the game that had no impact on the player, for indeed what appeared to be a snake consisting of data streamers of computer-like coding would emerge from the central column and actually be able to lash out at the player who had lost the round and physically consume him, as though the data coding that rendered the snake's body was a solid and could impact then the body forms of the humans in this destructive way. But this was a game as agreed to by the participants, the risks involved also accepted. The humans losing the round would be as though crushed, their body forms broken down into atoms and consumed by the data snake. As I said, games of a far more destructive nature, and some of which also had physical body ramifications. As though so desensitized were humanity, they yearned for such that would add this extra element to their games, that this was what passed now for thrills in what may very well be humanity's experience in the future in regards to the gaming and entertainment industries, the risk of actually being physical body destroyed should they fail in whatever the game demanded of them. The players of this particular game could also control the data snake to a degree, in that they could direct it through their keypads to attack random human passers-by, those not even involved with the game they were indulging in, and where the hapless human would be destroyed just as the losers of each round of the game were. For indeed one of them, noticing me observing this nonsense, would activate the snake and have it attempt to eradicate me also, but I would simply brush it aside as it tried to consume me. There was other technology also available that I would investigate. What drew my interest was a computer that could determine your very thoughts and convert them into not only text, but with the inclusion of visual graphics also, and produce the result in the form of a paperback book. I would test this technology for myself and formulate a particular real side experience I had received recently in my mind, and the computer would busy itself rendering the experience into a written text and associated pictures, and the end product, a small book of my experience, would emerge from it. The impressions were that this technology would also become commercially available at some point in humanity's overall experience, but it seemed it, and very likely all technology that is made available in the years to come, was far more heavily controlled, in that it only could be utilized if the manner by which it was made use of in no way undermined the controlling systems, in that whatever one produced in book form would only be permissible if the nature of it was not construed as conflicting with the mainstream controller narrative in any shape or form. For indeed, the real side experience I had formed in my mind would present as that which would be beneficial awareness speaking, containing all the years pertaining references as it did, references the controllers would not wish humanity to be supplied with, and so would be deemed as inappropriate material. And the book did contain a real side experience, but one that was horrendously distorted and inverted from the actual experience I had in mind. The book reading more as a horror story coupled with gruesome pictures of torture and abuse, and with not a single word referencing the true reality, or indeed anything included that would in any way be of assistance awareness-wise, and indeed depicted within some of the pictures, amidst all the carnage displayed, would be the two very children that had featured in this experience as the human collective consciousness representing supermarket became dark and the gaming complex became so. The two children that were somehow involved with not only the progression of distortion of human consciousness, that although appearing human were somehow aside from the species, as I said, but still able to impact humanity's overall experiential affairs, but they also were interjecting themselves into and influential in regards to the further developments of the technology, computer game distortions also, and within some of the pictures of murder, abuse and mayhem, so these two children would feature, and with frozen picture captured grins as though directed at myself. The two children, although no longer covered with the skin rash and acne from earlier, now were becoming as though fused with another species, that as I flicked through the pages of the book, every time they featured, their human bodies were sprouting features associated with the crustaceans, specifically lobsters, the antennae, the solid exoskeleton beginning to merge from their skin, and toward the final pages within the pictures where they were included, their hands would be as lobster claws, and they were altogether more lobster than human child. But this didn't seem to displease or distress them, judging by their mannerisms and expressions, as their sinister grins would be maintained to the very last picture that featured them. I would decide at that moment to destroy this computer that had rendered the book I held in my hands, and additionally would I subject certain other computers, boasting their respective extremes of destructive gaming experiences, to the same treatment. My actions would have me surrounded by humans, though dressed in military outfits, impressions revealing these were human enforcers standing in service to the Dark Force controllers, and they would escort me through the gaming complex and into an area connected though separated from it, which served as a kind of containment facility seemingly. A mechanical door would hiss shut behind me, and I would be sealed inside. That the supermarket had represented the overall human consciousness, and the gaming complex, the particular installed agreements the consciousness comprised of in regards to black magic technology as being able to feature in human experience. So this containment facility, equally as vast as the supermarket and the gaming complex, now represented the human consciousness as it would become, as it formulated and became more distorted from the embracing of the extremes of technology that will be made available, when all the fun and thrills turn to ash, and the reality of what humanity actually have agreed with and effected for themselves as a species becomes apparent. For humanity's fate then, having gone along these black magic distorted technology embracing lines, now were in very dark and gloomy circumstances, within what was the human consciousness representing building, as it will become, if what I revealed here becomes so as human experience, where such technology enters the human physical level domain and is agreed with. For the setting was gloomy, uninspiring, and highly controlled, encapsulating within the scene that which the controllers desire for their slave species that are humanity, either complete and utter control, or failing that, eradication. For there would be unparalleled levels of control, restriction, enforced by a brutal, merciless dark force representing militia. And of the human slaves, they all were grossly disfigured, malformed, and mutated, barely resembling human body types at all. For as a consciousness reflects its nature in the creational positionings we assume, and the body forms we occupy, that humanity were a mass of twisted, writhing forms, unrecognizable as human, this gave indication as to how distorted human overall consciousness had become, through a continued agreement with the dark force provided surface appealing phenomena, specifically that of black magic technologies, entertainments, and computer games, that had affected the human species in equal reflected, distorted measure. The experience would end there, and as is always the case, humanity decides as to its overall situation, but quite clearly any agreement in association with the dark force reptilian controllers is a tantamount to nothing other than progressively worsening conditions. That although everything may seem fine on the surface for a while, the effects of the distortion that are being agreed with will be showing up in due course. And perhaps humanity requires their overall experience to deteriorate yet further, which must surely then finally serve as the wake-up call and the incentive to recognize the years and allow extrication from the dismal abomination that this simulator has overall descended into.
Looking at the many parts of this, very simply, and that is that there's a movie. It's called Village of the Damned, and I would say it's in the 70s, and it's about these children, about at that age or so, that are in this village, and they're of a particular, like these kids here. Yeah, it's called Village of the Damned, old movie. Again, they're showing everything that's going on in the movies. And I'm going to share this with Eric. I was on last night with Eric Gamer, and he was there alone, and we were going over his experiences too. Now, Eric's really a gamer. I mean, that's his love, is the gaming. And I've told him before about how all the tap lining is included in all the gaming. So as he hears this, and he kind of reacts to that because that's his love affair with the personal self. And I said, well, that's your choice, Eric, etc., to hear this. And he had similar experience too in the supermarket. Yeah, because there's all kinds of stuff in the supermarket, and that's the business world, that's the variety of things today, etc. And his experience was to where he was with one of the guides, and one of the guides didn't give him a name, but gave him a number, that three numbers that added up to 22. And he asked me about that number, and I said, well, it's a special number that eventually you will be able to recognize it. I didn't say anything else. But anyhow, the idea in the store was the guide was leading him around to find some greeting cards, but these were very special greeting cards. And they were very well hidden. In other words, within, like you're describing, the human consciousness or the supermarket of the world, etc., creation included, there were these greeting cards, these very special greeting cards that were specially hidden. Now, these greeting cards, as the guide showed Eric, and the price on these was $500 each. Now, normal greeting cards that you go into the supermarket or somewhere, there's a whole lot of them. They're, a couple dollars to $3, $4, $5, $6, maybe $10 for a special one, etc. But these were $500 each, which is very interesting. The 5, which includes all the 5 levels of creation. And so I explained to him the experience, what was going on. He didn't understand. And I said, well, the guide was giving you the hint because of the associations you have. In other words, the idea of a greeting card is that, to, say hello to a friend, or if they're sick or ill, or if they're, whatever their situation is, that's the greeting card idea. I don't remember the Indians doing this, having greeting cards, but this is how the world is today. We have greeting cards, and we have email, and we have Skype and other things. But anyhow, I said the hint here is that these greeting cards have a lot of value, see? And it's a gift. A greeting card is a gift card, or a greeting card. It's a gift card. And that is that you have the opportunity to let a lot of other people know about what we're doing here, to share this all over. And that's the idea. And that's the idea that these greeting cards are very well hidden, because most people do not recognize what is being presented here. They go for the regular greeting cards or the regular gift cards that, are a few dollars, that are cute little sayings, emotional attachments, things like that, etc. But these are very special greeting cards. But it's not about the card. It's like the old saying, it's not the gift, but it's the thought that counts. And so this is the idea here. In other words, the guide is giving Eric the idea that, yes, you can, share the new you. And this is the idea of, a gift card for others to become more aware and wake up. So I thought that was really cool. And then you have the train action there with the time makers and the deceptors, trying to overthrow things, etc. And Paul wrote a book right before he left here called The Talents of Time. And he talked about the time makers, etc. And then I wrote book 4, which is The Adventures of Rebisar, which goes over that too, extends upon that, etc. just to let people know. So there's a lot of information out there. And then you, again, you winded it up with these kids and the virus and what they're doing in future lifetimes, etc. So yeah, it all entails as to what's happening, and these are many views for people to learn about, and it's a toughie. It takes a lot of training, and so we're providing, you might say, a crash course, a very capsulized version of so much stuff, and people only have so much time because they keep deciding the doom of this world. And yeah, the technology with the gaming industry and just the computers, it's the same thing. We're on Skype here. This is their game too. It's part of it. It's all part of it. It's all part of the matrix and this cyberspace stuff. And to recognize the difference between creation, personal self, real awareness, and whatever, and to unhook ourselves from all these things that we've come to know personally. Yeah, so heck of an experience, Kevin. Yes, so glad you're there, because this is how we all become more aware, to where we stand real with the position of shining like the sun and helping others become more aware. And this helps everyone. This helps the Real Guides. It helps everybody when we have that attitude. And no attitudes, get out of the way of ourselves. You don't need any attitudes. You don't even need to think. You just do something wonderful and be real. It's not that hard. So thank you so much, Kevin. That was great. Thank you.